Today we're going to show you how to replace the canvas on your jumping jack tent trailer. The very first thing that you're going to want to do is remove your tent from the trailer, lay it flat on the ground like you see it here, and then we can go ahead and just set the tent up like normal. If you have an older jumping jack trailer that has these built-in bed extensions, you may want to remove those just to remove some of that excess weight, especially if you're going to be installing this or swapping the canvas on your own. If you do have a couple people that can help you, then it is definitely not necessary to remove these. It is just the added weight that we are trying to eliminate. To remove these bed extension pieces, you are going to need some WD-40, a pin, and a hammer that you can hammer these pins through and out. Okay, you are going to want to also remove any personal items, bed cushions, and any of those things in there that are loose inside of that tent. With everything removed, we can now move on to the next step. At this point, there are three things that we're going to take care of right off the bat. We're going to remove our screw out of the front and back of that flex rod. We're going to remove the side fiberglass with the 3 straps on each side of the tent. And we're going to unclip the leash that holds the tent to that frame on both front and back of the tent. Those are located inside of the tent. So let's go ahead and do that. Save these items to the side to replace into your new canvas. We are going to want to use 2 of these side straps to hold that framework together when we pull it out of the canvas. I'm going to put one here in the front of the tent and one in the back so that it's ready for that next step. With each of these items removed, we can now just go ahead and put our tent down like we normally would to get ready for that next step. Now that all of those things are removed, tent is down flat, we're going to go ahead and remove this flex rod from the actual framework of that tent. As you can see, this is where our screw was holding that to the framework, and that is the T that goes into the frame of the tent. We need to remove that T. With those buckles undone as well, we are able to get a lot of this canvas pulled and out of the way, and we have our first side strap down here to tie that frame together when we go ahead and pull that flex rod out so that the frame doesn't want to jump on us and create any further issues. The easiest way to pull that flex rod from the frame is get it back down flat, and with your fist or a rubber mallet, just go ahead and pop it out. So with that rubber mallet, we're going to take that and just pop that T until it comes out. And be careful that that frame does not jump on you. At this point, we can slide that canvas out of the way, take that side strap, and we are going to strap around all three of those pieces there to tie everything together. Okay, again, we're going to take any of that excess canvas, pull it out of the way, take our rubber mallet, and pop that out. We're going to go ahead and tie the back of the frame as well at this point, just so that frame doesn't jump at all on us. And the easiest way to do that is just take that door side, go ahead and walk back with it until you get that rear strap that we left in the back. And same thing, we're going to go around all three pieces of the frame, clip it together, tighten it up. If you have the ability to hang the tent from your rafters in the garage, a tree branch, whatever it is, that is definitely going to help you remove this frame. It's not necessary, but it is definitely a big help. We like to just hook right to that T, go around it with a rope, a ratchet strap, whatever you're going to do to hook that, and then we're just going to hoist this tent up, giving us the ability to remove that frame much easier. For the majority of us that cannot lift the tent up, and we're going to be operating just on the ground here, we are going to go ahead and remove the flex rods out of the tent in order to have them out of the way to remove that framework. So the easiest way to remove that flex rod is to make sure that it stays in the upright flat position rather than allowing it to roll and flop on you. So that puts the T facing towards me. So we want the T to face away from us in order to keep it in that flat position. At that point, that's going to help us remove it out of those sleeves and slide from one side to the other. You just want to work it through and make sure that everything gets through and out of those those canvas sleeves, and make sure that none of those get hung up on the canvas itself. Now with the flex rods removed, we're going to move some of that canvas out of our way so that we can get inside of the tent, and we're going to prop that frame up on its side and bring it out the door. Having a second person will make things a lot easier, removing that frame and also putting it back into our new canvas. But as you can see, one person can do it. When you receive your new canvas, it's going to be rolled up, obviously shipped in a shipping box. When replacing that canvas and putting that frame back into the new tent, the first thing you're going to want to do is lay your tent bag out flat on the ground, all situated out nice and tight. And then we're going to lay that canvas out flat right over top of that tent bag. We do want to make sure that we situate the corners of the tent bag, or the corners of the tent, into the corners of the tent bag itself. So we're going to want to match those up. That's going to help us when we go ahead and put that framework back inside the tent. Once we get that tent laid out, the first thing we'll want to do there is pull that door kind of open, roll the door up and tie it open so that it's not getting in our way and that we can get in and out easily with that frame. So when your new canvas comes, It will not be rolled up, but it's as easy as laying it out flat like that, rolling it up, and using the drawstrings to go ahead and tie that open. When replacing that frame into the tent, we're going to first want to make sure that we're taking the correct end in first. Obviously, table side needs to go in the door first, and we do want to make sure that it is that back left corner going into the back left corner of the tent, so that when we get it in there and we work all that canvas up over the framework and we go ahead and lay it down, we don't get it in and it's the wrong position and have to take it back out and put it back in. So let's go ahead and do that. I am going to have a second person helping me do this just to make things easier and a little quicker here. So we're going to get this tent, or this frame, going into the tent, and at this point we need to work that canvas up and over the frame. Once we get that in that back corner, we're going to want to make sure that this front corner gets in the right spot, and then we can go ahead and lay that frame down flat. Again, you're going to have to work that canvas out of the way to get the other two corners into their position. That framework is now laid flat in the tent. We do want to be aware of where those seams are on the tent. The seams should be outside of both the front and the back of the tent. So what we're going to want to do is, down here we can see that it is on top of that seam. We're going to go ahead and grab that canvas and just work it until it comes out in front of that framework. We also want to make sure that each corner is in the corner of the tent and also in the corner of the bag. So it will take a little bit of work, a little bit of time to get all of that situated. The next step is to get the tent laid out flat again, and we're going to replace those flex rods, get them put back in. It is very important that they are the correct direction. So the T, again, is going to face the tent itself with the hole down on the bottom. So it's going to face the tent. We're going to unfold it, and that's going to help keep that flex rod flat. Again, if it rotates, it will flop on you and make things a lot harder. So let's keep that T facing the tent as we sleeve it into the tent itself. You just have to work it along as you go so that you get into all three of those sleeves across the front and then across the back of the tent with the back flex rod. Once that T reaches the center and both hinge points are outside of that sleeve, you are in the right position. Okay, once our flex rods are through that sleeve, we are going to need to get that T through the neoprene of the tent. So we're going to make sure again that it's facing the tent side and slide it through the neoprene, and we're going to have to also unstrap the framework at this point in order to get that all hooked together. You are going to want a rubber mallet just to pop that flex rod right back into that T. We do want to be sure that we do not pinch any canvas between those two moving parts. So in order to do this, to get that strap removed, I'm going to take that flex rod, move it out of my way, and find the rear access hole where you would normally run wires or propane hoses. And we're going to put our arm through that hole there, find that rear strap that's tying that framework together, and removing that strap at this point. Once that is removed, that frame is now loose and able to move, which is going to help us replace that flex rod. Also, we're going to leave our hand through that hole all the way until we get everything hooked back together. It is going to help us to replace that flex rod and get that T through that neoprene. With your hand through that access hole, and once you get the T through the neoprene into the tent, you're going to want to make sure that you have any of this excess canvas out of the way. We can then lift that framework up slightly, again making sure that that canvas does not get pinched in between these two moving parts, and we're going to feel and replace that T into the spreader bar of the framework. Once we get to the front of the tent, you're going to be able to see this a little bit easier, but it is easiest if you start here at the back because you have more play in that canvas with this side that doesn't have the door access. Once we get that T into that spreader bar, we can remove our arm, lift the frame up slightly, not allowing that flex rod to come back out, so that we can slide that neoprene down over the spreader bar of the tent. Once that is down over the spreader bar, and we make sure that there is no canvas or any material around the T, we can get our rubber mallet and hit that back into place. So as you can see here on the front, it's going to be a little bit easier to see how to get that flex rod into place. But again, starting in the back is the easiest because we have all of that extra play without that front attached. So we've got our same strap, our side strap that's holding that frame together. We're going to want to remove that side strap. Do not let the frame jump on you. And at that point, we're going to get that flex rod again with the T facing the tent, and we got to get it through the neoprene. The easiest way is to get one hand in through the door and work that T through the neoprene of the tent. Once that T is through that neoprene, we are then going to lift that frame up slightly, and this is our spreader bar that the T inserts into. So we're going to pull that frame or that T all the way out around that, again making sure that no canvas finds its way into those two moving parts. Using our other hand here on the fiberglass, keeping it in the right position so it doesn't twist on us. And once we get it inserted into that spreader bar slightly, we can lift up a little bit to slide that neoprene back out of the way, making sure that there is no material there to get pinched or caught. Once we're in, again, we're going to get our rubber mallet and we're going to hit that T back into place. At this point, we can go ahead and set our tent up, being careful that we do not just pull that flex rod right back out of that spreader bar, because we do not have our screw back in at this point. Let's go ahead and set our tent up. So again, we do not want to pull that flex rod back out of that T. So what I'm going to do is also hold on the top truss here while I'm pulling backwards. I'm giving most force on the truss rather than on that fiberglass rod, the flex rod, so that I don't pull it back out. So we're going to pull back to our chest, down to our hips, back end springs up, and we're going to come back up with the front. At this point, we can go ahead and replace our screws, but we do want to make sure that we use some red thread locker so that those screws will not jiggle loose and come out on their own. With the height of the top fiberglass rod, the flex rod, it is easiest if you pull your stool that came with your jumping jack trailer and use that to be able to get up a little higher. Now, our hole where we put this screw in to hold those 2 points together is already drilled and tapped, but depending on rust or damage or anything like that, you may need to re-tap this hole to re-thread it for the screw. The correct size is a 1/4 20 tap. Once we've got that screw, that hole is re-tapped or re-threaded if it needed it, then we can go ahead and take that screw with the red thread locker and tighten that back in. We're going to do this both front and back. We're going to want to go around and make sure that the tent is in the bag properly. We want to make sure that everything's in the corners, and we also want to make sure that the tent is within the seam of that bag on the front. So I'm going to go around each corner and just pull any of that slack out of the bag that may be underneath the tent. We also want to check the framework of the tent inside of that tent. Make sure again that everything is within those seams of the tent as well. So I'm going to check that right now at this point. Everything's still looking great. We've got that seam outside of the frame, both front and back. And then here in the bag, I've got that seam visible as well. Depending on the year of your tent bag, there may be a little bit less material here, just varying styles of bags there. We're gonna now replace our side fiberglass with our side straps. I'm gonna lay one of these out in each location where they go. And we're gonna sleeve that fiberglass right into there. Only the top portion of this side sleeve is open. So you're gonna slide it in and then make sure that that buckle is going to be facing the trailer itself. You also have a small loop and a larger loop. The larger loop is for your hand. The small loop is what goes around that fiberglass rod. So again, we're gonna make sure the buckle is facing the trailer, slide it over top of the fiberglass, and then we're gonna sleeve it through to the next eyelet. And we're going to repeat that process all the way down. Once you get the third strap on the fiberglass, you're going to want to make sure that front end does get seated down into the sleeve by pulling that down tight into the bottom of the sleeve. The last few items would be things like your carpet, and again, re-clipping our leashes from the tent to the framework. I highly recommend, once we do those two items, to go ahead and close the tent down, put the tent back in your trailer before replacing any of the bedding or any personal items that you leave inside of your tent, just to make it easier to get that back into the trailer. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that carpet now. And then we're going to clip those leashes back together. So again, those clip together, and those are to remain clipped at all times, other than replacing your tent like we've just done. So these leashes help us a lot when we go ahead and tear our frame down, because what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and fold a lot of that canvas for you. So step 1, step 2, and step 3. And as you see, a lot of that canvas got folded in for us by having those leashes attached. And at this point, we can go ahead and fold this back up, zip it into its bag, replace it into the trailer, and then go ahead at that point and open it up and replace any of that bedding and other items inside your tent.